Ladies and gentlemen, there are people in your life right now who smile to your face while slowly poisoning your peace. They don't break you all at once. They do it quietly, drip by drip, until you forget who you were before their chaos. Toxic people don't just ruin relationships, they destroy confidence, clarity, and purpose. And if you don't learn to walk away, they will take everything, including the parts of you that still believe in yourself. Today, I'm going to tell you why protecting your peace is not optional. It's survival. There's a certain kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from hard work or lack of sleep. It comes from being around people who drain your spirit. You know the kind, the ones who twist your words, make you doubt yourself, and somehow turn every moment into something heavy. These people are not misunderstood. They are toxic. And if you keep them close long enough, they will poison your peace, sabotage your confidence, and convince you that you're the problem. You can spot them easily once you stop excusing their behavior. They're the ones who criticize you under the disguise of honesty. The ones who call it just a joke when they tear you down. The ones who somehow make every conversation about them, who turn your victories into their insecurities, who can't stand to see you growing into someone they no longer control. They take, and when you finally stand up for yourself, they call you selfish. But here's the truth. Protecting your peace is not selfish. It's survival. Every time you let a toxic person linger in your life, you're teaching them that their chaos is welcome. You're telling them that your boundaries are flexible, and they will keep testing them until you finally break. They don't stop because you ask them nicely. They stop when you show them you're no longer accessible, when you refuse to respond to their drama, when you stop explaining yourself to someone who's already decided to misunderstand you. Toxic people destroy everything not because they're powerful, but because they thrive in weakness. They feed on guilt, on your need to please, on your desire to keep the peace. But peace with a toxic person is an illusion. The moment you stop giving them what they want, they'll turn on you. You cannot save someone who's committed to their own chaos. You cannot build with someone who finds comfort in destruction. And you cannot heal in an environment that keeps reopening your wounds. So when you start feeling lighter after someone leaves your life, pay attention. That relief is your body telling you what your heart already knew. You were carrying a weight that wasn't yours. You were holding on to something that was breaking you. People don't realize how much energy it takes to tolerate dysfunction, to walk on eggshells, to filter your words, to constantly question your worth, because someone else can't handle your strength. That's not love. That's manipulation dressed as connection. You owe it to yourself to be around people who remind you of your value, not make you prove it. People who can celebrate you without competition, who don't need to dim your light to feel seen. The ones who listen when you speak, who hold space for your emotions, who don't punish you for having boundaries. You see, healthy people don't fear boundaries, they respect them. Toxic people see boundaries as a threat to their control. They'll call you cold, distant, or ungrateful the moment you stop catering to their comfort. But their discomfort is not your responsibility. When you start cutting off toxic people, you'll be tested. They'll try to guilt you back, to remind you of the good times, to twist your kindness into weakness. Don't fall for it. Emotional manipulation is their greatest weapon, and your awareness is your shield. They'll say, "You've changed," and they'll be right. You have. You're no longer willing to be the emotional dumping ground, the fixer, the one who absorbs their storms. You've learned that peace is more valuable than proximity. Sometimes you'll miss them, not the real them, but the version you thought they could be. You'll remember the moments that felt good before the poison spread. But missing someone doesn't mean they belong in your life. Growth often feels like grief. You're not just letting go of people, you're letting go of the parts of yourself that tolerated what you didn't deserve. That's not weakness, that's power. There's something deeply liberating about reaching a point where silence speaks louder than confrontation. When you no longer need to explain why you walked away, when you stop defending your decision to protect your energy, that's when you've truly evolved. Because toxicity thrives on attention. When you stop reacting, you starve it. You take back your control. The truth is, you cannot build a strong life with weak boundaries. You cannot stay in chaos and expect peace to follow. You cannot keep watering dead plants and call it loyalty. Loyalty without reciprocity is self-destruction. You can love someone deeply and still choose to love them from afar. Distance doesn't mean hatred. It means healing. It means you finally understand that not everyone deserves access to you. Pay attention to how you feel around people. Your body will tell you before your mind catches up. Tight chest, uneasy stomach, drained energy. Those are not coincidences. That's your intuition waving a red flag. Toxicity doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers through sarcasm, guilt trips, and subtle put-downs. Listen closely, because the longer you ignore it, the louder it becomes. You don't have to fight every battle. Sometimes the strongest move is to walk away without a word. Not because you're weak, but because you've learned that arguing with a toxic person is like wrestling with smoke. You'll never win, and you'll end up exhausted. Let them think they've won. Let them tell their story, the cow. Truth doesn't need your defense. It stands on its own. Once you start protecting your peace, you'll notice your world getting quieter, and at first that quiet might feel lonely. But eventually, it becomes beautiful. Because in that quiet, you can hear yourself again. You'll rediscover your confidence, your clarity, your joy. You'll realize that you were never too sensitive, never too much, never too demanding. You were simply in an environment that couldn't handle authenticity. The world will test you again and again, presenting you with people who mirror the same patterns. That's not a curse, it's a lesson. To see if you've really learned what self-respect looks like, to see if you'll fall for charm over character, for apology over change, for words over actions. Don't fail the test by giving second chances to people who haven't earned them. And here's something most won't tell you. Not everyone who's toxic is a bad person. Some are just broken. But brokenness is not an excuse for cruelty. Compassion is one thing, self-sacrifice is another. You can understand someone's pain without letting it destroy you. You can wish them healing while still keeping your distance. You can forgive them and still never speak to them again. Forgiveness is for you, not for their comfort. It takes courage to walk away from people you care about. It takes strength to prioritize peace over familiarity. But every time you choose distance over dysfunction, you're teaching the world how to treat you. You're showing yourself that your well-being matters more than their approval. That's what self-respect looks like. One day, you'll look back and realize that the moment you decided to stay away from toxic people was the moment your real life began. Because once you remove the poison, everything grows differently. Your confidence, your focus, your joy. You stop surviving and start living. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. You stop allowing destruction to disguise itself as love. Toxic people destroy everything, but only if you let them. And the moment you decide you've had enough, the moment you reclaim your boundaries, their power ends. Because peace isn't something they can take from you. It's something you choose, and you choose it by walking away. When you finally walk away from toxicity, it doesn't mean life suddenly becomes easy. What it means is that you've stepped into truth, a truth that can be uncomfortable, but freeing. You begin to see how much of yourself you gave away just to keep the peace. You start to realize how much time you spent managing other people's emotions instead of living your own life. It hits you. Peace was never supposed to be something you had to earn. It was supposed to be your natural state. But toxic people made you believe that peace was a privilege, something they could grant or take away depending on how well you played by their rules. The detox process is not just emotional, it's physical. You'll notice your body reacting differently when you're no longer surrounded by chaos. Your sleep gets deeper. Your breathing becomes lighter. You don't flinch when your phone rings. You no longer rehearse conversations in your head, preparing defenses for the next attack. You're not constantly on guard. That is what healing feels like. It's not dramatic, it's quiet, it's subtle. It's you realizing you don't need to justify your existence anymore. But freedom always comes with temptation. The temptation to go back, to check in, to see if they've changed. That pull comes from habit, not love. It's your mind missing the familiarity of the chaos it once adapted to. Because that's what toxic relationships do. They condition you to confuse intensity with connection. The ups and downs, the drama, the unpredictability, it all becomes addictive. You start mistaking emotional turbulence for passion, silence for punishment, distance for power. But healthy love doesn't work that way. Healthy people don't keep you guessing. They don't punish you with silence or reward you with crumbs of affection. They bring calm, not confusion. There's a moment that will come after you leave. The silence will test you. You'll wonder if you did the right thing. You'll question if you overreacted. But remember this: confusion is part of detox. Doubt is part of growth. You're unlearning patterns that taught you love should hurt. You're rewiring a mind that's been taught to accept disrespect in exchange for validation. Healing is not a straight line. Some days you'll feel strong, other days you'll feel broken, but every step away from toxicity is a step toward truth. And truth has a way of clearing the fog. You begin to see things for what they were, not what you hoped they'd be. You start to recognize the manipulation, the subtle control, the way you were constantly made to feel guilty for having needs. You realize it wasn't love, it was control disguised as concern. Every time they said, "I'm just trying to help," but made you feel small, they weren't helping. They were asserting dominance. Every time they said, "You're too sensitive," they were gaslighting you into silence. And every time you tried to prove your worth to them, you unknowingly handed them your power. But here's what's beautiful. Once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Awareness becomes your armor. The same tactics that once manipulated you now expose them. Their words don't carry the same weight because you've learned to read the intent behind them. You stop explaining yourself. You stop defending what doesn't need defense. You stop absorbing other people's projections. You understand that their behavior was never about you. It was about their need to control what they don't understand. Toxic people often carry deep insecurity. They need to break others down to feel tall. When they see confidence, they feel threatened. When they see boundaries, they feel rejected. So they attack. Not because you deserve it, but because your strength exposes their weakness. They can't handle the mirror your self-worth holds up to them. That's why they try to shatter it. But the more you understand this, the more compassion replaces resentment. Not the kind of compassion that excuses behavior, but the kind that releases you from needing closure. You stop waiting for an apology that will never come. You stop expecting accountability from someone who can't even admit their own reflection. At some point, you'll look at the person you were back then, the one who tolerated so much, and you'll feel a mix of sadness and pride. Sadness because you remember how small you felt. Pride because you're no longer that person. You've learned to listen to your gut, to trust your intuition, to believe your own eyes. You don't beg people to see your worth anymore. You know who you are. You've reclaimed the voice they tried to silence. That's real growth, when peace feels more important than proving your point. As you move forward, you'll start attracting a different kind of energy. People who operate with integrity, people who don't need to compete or compare. They'll bring calm to your life, not chaos. But to receive that kind of energy, you must first become it. You can't attract peace if you're still attached to what broke you. So, let go. Not out of bitterness, but out of respect for yourself. You don't heal by holding on. You heal by accepting that some people will never change, and that's okay. You change the only thing you can, your response. One of the hardest lessons is realizing that walking away doesn't mean you lost. It means you finally understood your value. Toxic people want you to think that leaving them is weakness because it means they lose their control. But walking away is power. It's the act of reclaiming what was always yours, your time, your peace, your sanity. It's you saying, "I'm done sacrificing my happiness for someone else's comfort." That's strength. You'll also learn that not all toxicity comes in obvious forms. Sometimes it's subtle, a friend who constantly criticizes your dreams under the guise of concern, a colleague who undermines you in small ways, a partner who uses affection as leverage. It's easy to ignore those red flags because they come wrapped in familiarity. But remember, repeated small cuts can bleed you dry. It doesn't have to be loud to be damaging. It doesn't have to be dramatic to be destructive. You have to be brave enough to choose peace even when it looks lonely. You have to trust that the right people will meet you where calm lives, because peace doesn't chase, it attracts. The moment you start protecting your energy, you start seeing how much of it you gave to people who never deserved it. You'll realize that your silence holds more power than your explanations ever did. You'll see that walking away quietly is louder than any argument. Healing will teach you boundaries, but more than that, it will teach you standards. You'll no longer tolerate inconsistency, half-hearted effort, or people who only show up when they need something. You'll recognize red flags early because they'll no longer feel like home. You'll stop mistaking chaos for chemistry, and you'll start prioritizing emotional safety the way you once prioritized being understood. It takes time to rebuild yourself after toxicity. You'll have to relearn what healthy looks like. You'll have to teach yourself that love doesn't have to hurt, that respect doesn't require fear, and that your worth isn't negotiable. You'll have moments where you feel isolated because you've outgrown people who were comfortable keeping you small. But growth always comes with solitude. That's the space where you rebuild your foundation. That's where you remember who you were before they tried to redefine you. There's no magic in healing. It's work. Real, unglamorous, daily work. It's catching yourself before you apologize for things that aren't your fault. It's learning to say no without explaining why. It's choosing not to respond to provocation. It's walking away when every part of you wants to prove your point. It's the quiet decision over and over again to choose peace over chaos. And one day it will hit you. You don't feel the urge to go back anymore. You won't need closure, validation, or revenge. You'll simply feel detached, not in a cold way, but in a free way. Their name won't trigger you. Their absence won't haunt you. You'll have outgrown the entire situation, because that's what healing does. It transforms your pain into wisdom. It teaches you to see people clearly, to protect your peace fiercely, and to never settle for less than respect again. You'll realize that staying away from toxic people isn't just about avoiding harm. It's about making space for better, for genuine love, for growth, for peace that doesn't depend on someone else's approval. You'll finally understand that you never needed to change who you are to be accepted. You just needed to stop giving your energy to people who couldn't appreciate it. And from that moment on, you'll move differently. You'll speak differently. You'll no longer explain your worth. You'll embody it. You'll walk the quiet strength, knowing that you no longer tolerate what you once did. You'll stop being accessible to people who bring chaos, and you'll start surrounding yourself with those who bring calm. Because once you've tasted peace, chaos becomes intolerable. And once you know your worth, you never negotiate it again. You'll notice something profound once you've detached from toxicity long enough. Your standards start to rise effortlessly. What used to impress you doesn't anymore. The loudest people no longer hold your attention. You stop being drawn to drama because you've learned that peace feels better than excitement that comes with pain. You become more protective of your energy, more selective with your access, and less tolerant of anything that feels off. It's not that you've become cold, it's that you've become clear. You finally understand that your peace is not negotiable. There was a time when you thought being kind meant being available. You confused compassion with endurance. You kept giving chances to people who showed you again and again that they didn't value them. But now, kindness looks different. It looks like boundaries. It looks like walking away without bitterness. It looks like saying no without guilt. You've learned that kindness without boundaries turns into self-betrayal. That being a good person doesn't mean tolerating bad behavior. You can have a soft heart and still have a strong spine. The world doesn't always reward quiet strength. It celebrates those who shout the loudest, demand the most, manipulate the best. But the real power, the kind that lasts, is quiet. It's the calm after the storm, the silence that follows chaos. It's the strength of someone who knows they don't need to prove their worth to anyone. When you stay away from toxic people, you rediscover that power. You realize that silence can be the loudest statement, that walkie, nang awe can be the boldest move, and that choosing peace is the ultimate rebellion in a world that thrives on noise. You'll start noticing how your relationships shift. The people who are genuine will match your energy. They'll respect your boundaries because they have their own. They'll bring stability instead of confusion, care instead of competition. They'll listen without trying to one-up your story. You'll no longer feel drained after spending time with them. You'll feel recharged. That's how you'll know you're finally surrounded by healthy energy. You'll begin to crave that peace so much that anything less will feel unbearable. It's almost shocking how peaceful life becomes when you stop entertaining dysfunction. You'll have time to focus, to breathe, to grow. Your creativity will return because it's no longer suffocated by constant stress. You'll start setting goals again because your energy isn't being consumed by survival. Toxic people keep you small because they thrive on your instability. When you're always fixing, defending, explaining, you don't have time to build. Once you remove them, your potential unfolds in ways you didn't know were possible. You begin to operate from clarity, not chaos. There's a misconception that growth requires forgiveness before freedom. But the truth is, freedom often comes first. You don't need to wait for your heart to soften before you set yourself free. You can leave before you've fully processed the pain. You can detach even if you still care. Healing doesn't require closure. It requires distance. Time and space will do the rest. And eventually forgiveness will come, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. People will sometimes try to make you feel guilty for distancing yourself from those who mean well, but intention doesn't erase impact. You can love someone deeply and still recognize that being close to them harms you. You're not obligated to destroy yourself for the sake of loyalty. Love without respect is not love, it's attachment. And attachment can suffocate growth. The more you choose yourself, the more you'll see that self-respect is not arrogance. It's alignment. It's you stepping into your worth without needing anyone else to validate it. When you truly internalize that, your energy changes. You stop explaining your decisions. You stop apologizing for choosing yourself. You stop lowering your standards for people who refuse to rise. You no longer chase, convince, or plead. You simply remove yourself. You move in silence. You don't need to announce your growth to those who refuse to support it when it mattered. You simply live it. And that quiet confidence becomes magnetic. It attracts people and opportunities aligned with your new standard. One of the hardest but most liberating truths you'll learn is that not everyone deserves access to you. You can wish people well without walking beside them. You can love them without letting them back in. Growth requires discernment, knowing who gets your time, your energy, your vulnerability. Not everyone has earned the right to those parts of you. Your peace is sacred, and not everyone deserves to touch it. Protect it the way you'd protect something priceless, because it is. When you look back on the version of yourself that tolerated toxicity, you might feel anger or regret. Don't. That version of you was doing their best with what they knew. That version of you wanted to believe in people, wanted to fix what was broken, wanted to love deeply. That version of you had a heart that refused to give up on others. Honor them, because they were the bridge to who you are now. The person who finally knows that saving yourself is not selfish. It's necessary. You'll find that healing makes you more empathetic, not less. You'll start to recognize the pain behind other people's toxicity, not to excuse it, but to understand it. You'll see that hurt people often hurt others, but healed people protect peace. You'll realize that your responsibility is not to fix anyone. It's to hold your boundaries so tightly that others are forced to face their own reflection. That's how change happens. Not by carrying people, but by showing them what self-respect looks like. You'll notice that once you stop tolerating toxicity, you also stop contributing to it. You'll become more self-aware, more intentional with your words, your energy, your reactions. You'll catch yourself before responding from ego. You'll start to choose calm over chaos. You'll become someone others feel safe around because your energy no longer wavers with the storm. And that's the beauty of healing. It doesn't just change how you see others, it changes how you show up for yourself. There's something powerful about walking into a room and not needing to prove anything. You're not performing, you're not shrinking, you're not over-explaining. You simply exist in your truth. That's the kind of quiet strength that makes toxic people uncomfortable. Because they can't control someone who's grounded. They can't manipulate someone who's aware. They can't provoke someone who doesn't need validation. Your peace becomes your protection, and your self-awareness becomes your weapon. The world will always have toxic people, at work, in families, in friendships. You can't eliminate them all, but you can control how you respond. You can train your instincts to recognize the energy immediately. You'll stop ignoring the subtle signs, the backhanded compliments, the passive-aggressive remarks, the guilt trips. You'll see them for what they are, attempts to regain control, and instead of reacting, you'll disengage. You'll no longer play the game because you've outgrown the arena. That's the real victory, not proving them wrong, not getting even, but rising so far above that their chaos can't reach you. It's realizing that peace is not found in fixing the storm, but in learning not to dance in it. It's when your energy becomes so grounded that manipulation simply bounces off you. You stop being a target because there's nothing left for them to feed on. That's what real growth looks like. Stillness in the face of chaos, calm in the face of provocation, grace in the face of disrespect. You'll find that your life becomes simpler, not emptier. You'll have fewer people around you, but the connections will be deeper. You'll wake up feeling lighter. You'll trust your own judgment again. You'll stop seeking validation because you'll no longer question your worth. You'll finally understand that peace doesn't come from external approval. It comes from internal alignment. And that alignment only exists when you stop letting toxic people pull you out of your center. There's an unspoken freedom in realizing you don't owe anyone your energy. You don't owe them explanations, closure, or continued access. You owe yourself the chance to live fully, to grow freely, to breathe deeply. Every time you choose peace over chaos, you reclaim a piece of yourself that was lost. Every boundary you set is a declaration. I am no longer available for my own destruction. And when you stand in that truth, everything changes. Your confidence returns. Your focus sharpens. Your world expands. You start saying yes to things that align with your purpose, not your pain. You start attracting people who pour into you instead of draining you. You begin to live, not just survive. And that's when you realize the life you were meant to live was always waiting on the other side of walking away. When you reach the point where peace becomes non-negotiable, you stop seeking permission to protect it. You stop explaining why you left, why you distanced yourself, why you no longer engage. You realize that you don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing yourself. The people who truly value you will understand without words. The ones who don't will call you selfish because they benefited from your self-abandonment. And that realization is both painful and freeing. Painful because you see how one-sided some relationships really were. Freeing because you finally stop mistaking comfort for connection. You begin to redefine what loyalty means. You used to think loyalty meant staying, enduring, holding on. Now you understand that real loyalty starts with loyalty to yourself. It means refusing to betray your peace for the sake of appearances. It means staying true to your intuition even when it makes others uncomfortable. Loyalty without respect is captivity. You can't stay loyal to people who are disloyal to your well-being. You can't keep defending people who quietly destroy your spirit. Walking away is not a lack of loyalty. It's a declaration that you refuse to be destroyed by it. As your energy changes, your world recalibrates. Things that once excited you now feel draining. Conversations that used to entertain you now feel shallow. You become more intentional about what you let into your space. You start craving solitude, not because you dislike people, but because you've discovered the calm in your own company. Solitude is no longer loneliness, it's maintenance. It's where you recharge, reflect, and realign. In that space, you stop needing constant validation because you finally know who you are when the noise fades. The funny thing about peace is that once you taste it, chaos no longer feels normal. What used to be thrilling now feels toxic. You stop confusing. Adrenaline with affection, instability with depth, drama with meaning. You realize that love isn't supposed to feel like survival. It's supposed to feel safe. And safety doesn't mean dull. It means consistency. It means clarity. It means you don't have to question whether you're valued or play guessing games with someone's intentions. Toxic people thrive on confusion. They need you uncertain to maintain control. Once you demand clarity, they lose power. And the more grounded you become, the more obvious it is who doesn't belong. You'll sense it in conversations, the subtle tension, the forced laughter, the way some people only reach out when they need something. You won't even need to confront them. You'll simply stop participating. Disengagement is not cold, it's conscious. You're no longer feeding situations that drain you. You're no longer trying to heal others at the cost of reopening your own wounds. You're conserving your energy for what deserves it. You'll start building new habits that reinforce your growth. You'll create structure around your mental health the way you once did around your obligations. You'll wake up earlier to clear your mind before the day begins. You'll exercise, not just for appearance, but because strength has become part of your identity. You'll be intentional about who you spend time with, what you read, what you consume. You'll stop chasing external validation and start nurturing internal peace. You'll realize that every small habit is either feeding your strength or feeding your weakness, and you'll choose strength. You'll learn that emotional maturity doesn't mean being unbothered all the time. It means knowing when to engage and when to walk away. It means not letting every provocation pull you back into the chaos you escaped. Toxic people will try to test your new boundaries. They'll poke, provoke, and guilt trip you to see if you'll still play the old role. But you won't. You'll respond with calm, not chaos. You'll respond with silence, not explanation. You'll respond with distance, not defense. Because peace doesn't need to prove itself. It simply exists. Sometimes you'll feel guilty for outgrowing people, especially those who once felt like home. You'll miss the laughter, the shared history, the familiar rituals, but you'll also remember the heaviness, the tension, the way you had to shrink yourself to fit. Nostalgia can trick you into believing you lost something meaningful, when in truth, you only lost the illusion of safety. You didn't lose home, you found it, within yourself. You became the stability you were searching for in others. Healing also forces you to confront your own patterns, the parts of you that tolerated toxicity because it felt familiar. You'll trace those patterns back to where they began. Childhood dynamics, past heartbreaks, old beliefs about love and worth. It's uncomfortable work, but it's necessary. Because until you understand why you accepted less, you'll keep repeating it. Awareness is the first step toward transformation. When you finally face the truth, you free yourself from cycles that once felt inevitable. You stop recreating the same pain with different faces. As your self-awareness grows, so does your empathy. But it's a new kind of empathy. It's not the type that enables or excuses harmful behavior. It's the kind that sees people clearly without taking on their pain. You'll understand that you can love someone deeply and still know they're not good for you. You'll see that you can wish someone healing while refusing to be their healer. You'll grasp that boundaries aren't walls, they're filters. They let love in, but keep manipulation out. You'll start seeing how much of your life used to revolve around reaction. Reacting to criticism, reacting to chaos, reacting to guilt. Now you'll respond instead of react. Response is conscious. Reaction is conditioned. The more self-aware you become, the slower you move emotionally. You won't rush to defend yourself against false accusations. You won't get caught in every argument. You'll recognize that your peace is worth more than being right. That's emotional mastery, not detachment, but discipline. The people who are meant for your next chapter will respect that discipline. They'll admire your calm instead of mistaking it for indifference. They'll match your energy instead of draining it. They'll contribute to your growth, not compete with it. You'll attract relationships where honesty is natural, where communication replaces guessing, where trust replaces tension. You'll finally experience what it feels like to be loved in peace, not chaos. And when that happens, you'll wonder why you ever accepted anything less. The world around you will also shift. Opportunities will appear that align with your clarity. When you're not constantly managing toxic energy, you have room to create, to build, to dream. You'll notice how focus returns once distraction leaves. You'll see how doors open when you stop knocking on the wrong ones. Energy is currency. Spend it wisely. Every moment wasted on toxicity is a moment stolen from your potential. Protecting your energy isn't spiritual fluff, it's strategic living. And as you continue walking this path, you'll realize that staying away from toxic people isn't just about removing negativity, it's about making space for growth. The silence you once feared becomes your sanctuary. The solitude you once dreaded becomes your power. You'll learn to find fulfillment in simplicity, a clear mind, a calm environment, genuine connections. You'll see that peace doesn't mean perfection. It means alignment. It means that your outer world finally matches your inner world. Sometimes you'll cross paths with new people who remind you of your old lessons. You'll recognize the signs instantly, the subtle control, the manipulation disguised as charm, the way they try to test your boundaries. But this time, you won't ignore it. You'll quietly step back. Not every battle needs confrontation. Some victories happen in silence. You'll learn that saying nothing can be the loudest statement of all. Growth will also make you more compassionate with yourself. You'll stop punishing yourself for staying too long in the past. You'll understand that you needed those experiences to learn what you now know. The pain became the teacher. Every heartbreak refined your discernment. Every betrayal sharpened your boundaries. Every disappointment strengthened your faith in yourself. You'll look back and realize that nothing was wasted, not even the suffering. It all shaped the version of you that refuses to settle for less than peace. As time passes, you'll become more selective with your words and your presence. You'll learn that not everyone deserves to know your story. You'll share your truth only with those who've earned the right to hear it. You'll speak with intention, move with purpose, and choose silence when it says more than words ever could. Your energy will start commanding respect before you even speak, because peace is visible, it's felt, it radiates, and eventually, you'll realize that staying away from toxic people was never about building walls, it was about building wisdom. You didn't lose them, you found yourself. You didn't walk away to punish anyone, you walked away to protect everything sacred within you. You became someone who no longer chases chaos, who no longer explains boundaries, who no longer negotiates peace. You became your own anchor in a world that thrives on turbulence. From that place of strength, you'll start helping others see what you now understand. You'll notice the people still trapped in the same cycles you escaped. You'll recognize their exhaustion, their confusion, their longing for peace. And instead of judging them, you'll offer presence. Because you know that the journey from chaos to calm can't be forced. It must be chosen. You'll inspire by example, not persuasion. Because nothing speaks louder than the quiet confidence of someone who's no longer controlled by toxicity.